you know, maybe Jeffrey Smith's not that bad of a guy. Maybe he just doesn't understand what the problem is. Maybe he's not a Titanic asshole. No, he's an asshole. Hi everybody, it's Jeff Holiday again, here with part 2 of my response to Jeffrey Smith's open letter challenge to Neil deGrasse Tyson. If you haven't seen number 1, you should go check it out. I'm pretty proud of it. Turned out to be a pretty good video. In the current time of the video, Jeffrey Smith has been talking about, well, he's actually been talking about a lot of different things, a couple of different studies, none of which he actually names. And he flips back and forth between Bt spores, which has nothing to do with Bt toxin, and these tests about finding, like, attributing residue chemical material inside bloodstreams. Anyway, here's where things are about to get real shitty.
Again, these are some of the studies that need to be done. We can't simply ignore these possibilities, especially when there's such a tight correlation now, not proving, but correlation between so many diseases on the rise in the US and the use of GMOs.
Oh, here we go.
Including autism, diabetes, certain cancers, all sorts of gastrointestinal disorders, deaths from stroke and Alzheimer's and dementia, etc. Some of these may be related, but no one is looking.
Oh, man. Oh, God. So after the last video, I told myself that I wasn't allowed to drink while doing the second part. Instead, I'm switching to coffee. Man, he is not making it easy on me. Oh, boy. So there is strong correlations, no there isn't, between GMOs and everything wrong with the world. No there isn't. The moment in which you start trying to take something that has nothing to do with something else and bring it into focus to make your argument, you've already lost. There is no causal relationship between any of the things that he just listed and genetically modified foods. And the very idea of that is preposterous because not all genetically modified foods are the same. Instead, they're wildly different. They're massively different. All of them are. So how can you make such a broad, sweeping statement? Is that making fucking sense? Oh. Especially with autism. Especially with autism. This is a big goddamn issue. You can't just lump something in and say it causes autism, because it may seem benign to you to kind of make that attribution because just in case, but the more you attach a bunch of bullshit to something that affects a lot of people and hurts people and causes lives to be irreparably changed in ways that are hard to deal with, it's when you cloud that issue up, it stunts the research that might be able to actually find out more about it, and in that way you're making it worse. Some people since the first video have been like, well, you know, you're being a little hard on Jeffrey Smith, don't you think so? No. Fuck that guy. He makes money telling people things that aren't true, manipulating data, and in the end, this ignorance, this titanic lack of decency as a human being hurts people.
Now, you have the process of transfer of genetic engineered material in from one species to another. Just that process, you're crossing the species barrier. Nobel Prize winner George Wald said, this is not to be confused with traditional breeding. Listen carefully, Neil. Not to be confused with traditional breeding. It is transferring genes between totally unrelated species.
This has been quite a talking point with a lot of people. Well, it's not the same. Transgenic genetic modification is totally different from conventional breeding. Well, yes and no. We don't have a whole lot of luck with just kind of mashing two different plants together to make them do stuff. We kind of can. But to say that transgenic genetic drift doesn't happen is preposterous. Of course it happens. It happens in nature all the time. This is just how things work. People like Jeffrey Smith, they always like to talk about transgenic plants. But not all GMOs are transgenic. In fact, a good majority of them, I believe, are non-transgenic. You're just going in and modifying the plant's own genes. Arctic apples, they change one gene, and it's the apple's own gene. Same thing with golden rice. They're activating a dormant gene that makes the rice produce beta-carotene. You don't get to have that distinction between the two. Everything is frankenfood.
Australians were developing peas to produce an insecticide. They took the exact same protein, although this time it was transferred into peas, exposed to mice. The mice had 5 inflammatory reactions, suggesting that the peas had become potentially deadly.
No, that's not how it went down. Basically, what Jeffrey Smith is saying is kind of true, but much like everything else that he kind of truthfully says, he's also full of shit. They're not potentially deadly. They showed a possibility of having an allergic reaction in humans because it had an allergic reaction in rats. So they didn't put it out. So guess what we aren't eating? GMO peas! The system works.
So they canceled the production of these genetically modified peas. They believe that the reason why this otherwise identical protein had become dangerous, potentially deadly, is that once it transferred into the new environment, sugar molecules attached themselves to the protein with a different shape, a very subtle difference. This is called glycosylation. It's known to promote allergic reactions. They don't even check with the current GMOs on the market whether there's glycosylation changes.
Yes, they do.
They just assume that there isn't. This group happened to use a research technique that almost no one looked at for the current GMOs to find that difference.
Bullshit. Bullshit, 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 bullshit. After the finding of the peas, of course, this is standard practice. They look at everything. Why do you think it takes over 10 years to get a GMO crop actually approved for safety testing? And you think in those 10 years they can't do that one simple little fucking test? Really? This is just another classic example of him making shit up.
Now, in addition to the Bt toxin built into our corn and our cotton, most of the GMOs are engineered to withstand doses of Monsanto's Roundup herbicide.
Wait a minute. So, so we just went from Australian peas. So we just went from blood-brain barrier problems to Australian peas to now Monsanto is making things with pesticide in them and are resistant to Roundup. This guy doesn't even know what the fuck he's talking about. Stay on topic. What the fuck?
If you have been current in the research on Roundup, you'll know that it is now linked to birth defects,
No, they're not.
Parkinson's,
No, they're not.
endocrine disruption.
No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not.
All sorts of problems. There was a review study that linked it to
heart disease, cancer, obesity, diabetes, multiple sclerosis, anorexia nervosa, digestive disorders, reproductive disorders, another one, gluten sensitivity, kidney damage, aggression, depression.
If you look at the nature of Roundup, it's too big of a discussion here.
This is a particularly favorite kind of ridiculousness that I absolutely love. Some of these studies, which are not studies, they're just horseshit masturbation papers. They make such loose attributations that I would have more correlation between me recording my first video and having to listen to this idiot all day to the hangover I had the next day. Now I know it's because I drank too much, because the guy just is so chock full of stupid. But my correlation is stronger saying that Jeffrey Smith causes hangovers than GMOs, all of them, magically cause all these problems.
It is not the benign chemical that Monsanto has been thrusting upon us. It is described by many scientists as the most chronically toxic chemical on the planet.
Fun fact, caffeine is actually more toxic than glyphosate. Look it up.
So we now have a situation where these untested
GMOs are on the market. When the American Academy of Environmental Medicine reviewed the animal feeding studies 5 years ago, they said there's enough evidence to recommend that all physicians in America prescribe non-GMO diets to every patient. Thousands of doctors are doing just that, and they report to me at our Institute for Responsible Technology, as do the people who switched from GM to non-GM.
that they're getting better from the same type of diseases and disorders that were found in the lab animals that were fed GMOs.
Translation. We've managed to completely and utterly fool a bunch of really stupid fucking doctors who then lie to their extremely gullible patients and tell them to avoid this certain thing, and that will make them feel better. We don't have any controls for this. We don't have any actual data sheets for this. All we have is hearsay of people reporting to the Institute of Responsible Technology. Go fuck yourself.
We hear by thousands of people who are switching to non-GMO diets. This is anecdotal. This is not hard science.
No shit.
But if GMOs are causing these problems, it's supportive evidence, just like the correlational charts showing an increase of GMOs paralleling the increased expansion of these diseases and disorders in the United States.
No, 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 no. It is not evidence whatsoever to support anything of the kind. And if you're using a line graph to try and make leaps of logic, well, I could find you ones that say the rise of consumption in organic food, because more people eat organic food today than they did before, could be directly linked to autism or to heart disease or cancers or shit, man, lupus, whatever. Somebody made a graph and they drew a line, and that's why my claims are totally supported.
When livestock are taken off of GMOs, unlike when humans switch, when they have to go organic or reduce processed foods, introducing all sorts of confounding
factors that might cause the interpretation of why they're getting better makes it very hard to identify. But when livestock are switched from GM to non-GM soy or corn, there are no confounding factors. It is simply a single change. And the farmers and veterinarians tell us over and over again that the animals within days are using less medicine, their behavior is different, their death rate is down.
It's very dramatic, and it parallels, same with pets, it parallels the problems found in the animal feeding studies, getting better in humans, getting better in livestock, getting better in pets, on the rise in the U.S. population since GMOs were introduced.
All right. I can demolish this entire thing really, really quickly, and I can tell you why. His idea, his thesis of this is that regardless of the studies, regardless of how he has interpreted them, because some people and animals who have been taken off of a GMO diet have started to get better. Well, first of all, he doesn't have any evidence for this. None. There's no evidence for it. But if there was evidence for it, do you know what would happen? The person who found out that this was the case, that actually had real, unfalsifiable evidence, you know what that person would get? He would get a fucking Nobel Prize, man. Nobel Prize! Why doesn't Jeffrey Smith have a Nobel Prize? He's bringing the truth to the people, right? You know? He's a fucking living saint. Look at what he's trying to do. He's trying to save us all, man. Where's his Nobel Prize? He's not going to get one because none of this is real. It's all bullshit.
And those same diseases and disorders would be predicted by looking just at the nature of the two main toxins in GMOs, the Bt toxin and Roundup, which is sprayed onto most crops.
One of which is completely harmless to humans, and the other, which is by leaps and bounds less toxic than every single organic pesticide available for commercial production.
We don't have to create a clear causative relationship in this argument.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do, Jeffrey Smith. You have to provide a real argument in this. You have to give us evidence. Because otherwise, you're a fucking idiot. You're a lying, snake oil selling piece of shit. You make money off of selling people fear. You, sir, are a complete douche canoe.
For Neil deGrasse Tyson, we don't have to say it's been proven that GMOs are linked to autism.
Or whatever. We just have to show that the mechanics of the process of creating genetically engineered crops and how they're grown and sprayed and what they produce is
so different from traditional breeding.
It's so different. We just have to show that it's so different. Okay? Do it. Do it. Do it. Show us. Show us. Because all you're doing right now is showing us a bunch of crap. You're not even showing it to us. You're just regurgitating through your own interpretive lens things that are old, disproven, non-replicatable, and hearsay. You telling us a bunch of anecdotal bullshit is not you actually making a case or showing or proving anything.
So this technology, which I'm not against generically, but in its current form, it is so dangerous, it is so immature, but it has been thrust into the food supply and put out into the environment where you cannot recall genetic contamination long before the science was ready.
Long before the science was ready. I know it's been over 30 years, but it's too soon. Too soon. We just don't know enough. We're only testing these crops for anywhere from 10 to 20 years before we let them be released out there. That's not enough time to really know if it's just going to turn into some fucked up shop of horrors monster and just start eating all of us good, wholesome, organic diet enthusiasts. It could happen. And the only way we can escape is if Jeffrey Smith will teach us how to fly.
So Neil deGrasse Tyson, get with the numbers. If you don't understand what I've said,
Motherfucker, you don't even know what the hell you just said.
if you haven't absorbed it, if we want to spend some time, let's get together for a few hours and discuss it. Or, better yet, roll a camera, we'll debate with some time to go into these principles.
Alright. Oh, man. So, okay, folks, you heard that right. Jeffrey Smith wants to go and have a debate with Neil deGrasse Tyson. For one thing, he's so arrogant as to think that he, a non-scientist, not even a specialist in his field, but a ballroom dancer who thinks he can fly, has any amount of clout that can stand up next to a man who is revered and loved in academia and a public figure and notable TV personality of a wildly popular TV show. He thinks that he could actually go toe-to-toe with him. That in itself is funny. That's funny. But what's hilarious is that is that recently, I hope everybody's aware, Bill Nye had a debate. Bill Nye is one of Tyson's peers, and they do Star Talk together. And he had a debate with Ken Ham. And Ken Ham is the leader of a creationist museum. And so you have Bill Nye, who is a stern man of science. Neil deGrasse Tyson, stern man of science. Ken Ham, wingnut motherfucker who thinks crazy, stupid bullshit. And Jeffrey Smith, crazy fucking wingnut who believes in a bunch of bullshit, who wants to go and embarrass himself. I hate to have to put it to you this way, Jeffrey Smith, but you're small fucking potatoes. You're a tiny, insignificant little turd, which is why I am responding to you, and Neil deGrasse Tyson isn't. Because you're too small for him to consider. You're an obnoxious little twerp who spouts off a bunch of bullshit all the time and makes money by selling people fear. He's not going to give you the time of day.
And you'll see that this basic, simple excuse that we've been modifying genes for years through selective breeding, so we don't have to worry about GMOs, it doesn't hold water. Safe eating, Neil, and everyone else.
Thank God that's over. Thank God. Seriously, I'm in awe that this guy thought it was a good idea to try and record something as a personal message or challenge to Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm amazed that he feels that he somehow has any amount of credibility that people would take him seriously. But the sad state of affairs is that people do take him seriously. They do actually listen to what he says, and they think that he knows what he's talking about. And he brings people in, and he colors them, like Stephanie Seneff, as experts in a field that they actually have no formal education in, and they don't know what they're talking about. And he lies to people. He sells people fear. And this is a disgusting situation. It's not very fair that people like him are allowed to prey upon people who are scared and concerned, because I understand why people are afraid of genetic modification. It's a scary concept, and I empathize with that. That's fine. But people like him just make it worse. They're not looking at it objectively. He doesn't even want there to be safety testing. Like, his only time he's going to want safety testing is for the safety testing to come back unsafe, because that's how he makes his money. So that's the end of the video. I dearly hope that this gets spread enough that Mr. Smith himself can see my words of love to him. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Hello, my name is Jeff Holiday, and I make videos on science, skepticism, and reason. If you would like to see more videos like the one you just watched, please click the subscribe button down below. Rate me if you liked it. Leave a comment if you want. I'll do my best to get back to you. Have a great day.